Hi, welcome back to my channel. I'm Kathy, and today I wanted us to talk about how to buy and store your grains. I think a lot of people wonder how much do you need? Where do you store it? How do you store it? I also want to share with you why I think that the Nutrimill Classic is the way to go for a grain mill to get you the widest option in grinding, the largest capacity in here for grains going in, which means the larger capacity for grains going out. So let's get started. This was my first purchase of grain, and this is from ancientgrains.com. I had learned about grains and all the health benefits from first Sue Becker, and then of course started exploring on my own. And I knew that Sue Becker, breadbeckers.com, offered grains for purchase, which this is from breadbeckers.com. When I checked on breadbeckers.com to purchase a bucket of grains like this, it was, I think, $65 for the hard white wheat, and then about 65, maybe even a little more than that, to ship it to me from, Georgia. I think that, yeah, Woodstock, Georgia, to Ohio was around $65. So it seemed a bit pricey to me, and then I started exploring where can I get grains through a process of reading some blogs and exploring other options. I had learned about ancient grains through traditional cooking school. Wardy had promoted ancient grains as a reliable, clean source of grains. So I was aware of ancient grains, but they too, if you want to get this bucket delivered to your home, it's free shipping. However, it's around $127. So there again, it's all in the pricing and how these companies decide to handle that. So if Bread Becker's is $65 and then 65 to ship, and this one is 127 free shipping, then it was about the same as far as cost. And now that I recall, breadbeckers.com at that time was out of hard white wheat, which is what I wanted. I knew to start I wanted hard white wheat, and I wanted it in the largest quantity because when you're buying wheat or any of these grains, millet, spelt being as a wheat, but oats, anything that you are buying from a company in a larger quantity, you're going to pay less per pound, per ounce, per volume. And fortunately, I'm fortunate to have a basement with adequate storage space. So I knew that I wanted to go with the larger quantities to get more quantity, per price. And I had already learned through Sue and Bread Beckers that, if you buy the grain intact, you can store it indefinitely. The enemies to grain are moisture, rodents, and bugs. So if you are storing them in an airtight container, and you know that they're airtight, not exposed to moisture, that's going to keep, the airtight's going to keep the oxygen out, which is not necessarily an enemy to an intact grain, but it's going to keep rodents out, bugs out, and moisture out. So I recommend, if you have the space, to go again with the larger quantities. If you watch any of Sue's videos, she will tell you herself that when they get grain in, they have their employees take it, from a 2,000-pound sack into these 6-gallon buckets almost immediately to again protect it from the rodents, bugs, moisture. And then those same staff will take it from this large 6-gallon bucket and put it into these 1-gallon pails. And then also she offers 2-pound bags. So all of that, once once her staff starts taking it from a size like this and putting it in these other containers, then it is cost added to them. So you're going to pay more for, per ounce per pound for the smaller sizes. So I encourage you, if you have the space, go with the larger quantities to save you money, and then also so you have it on hand. And I don't think I fully finished the statement that these will last you as long as you protect them from those three enemies for, and forever. So, and I mean, I say that forever. One source will tell you 30 years. Sue Becker will tell you that they, found grain like this in Egypt that was, perceived to be, or, evaluated to be 3,000 years old, and they grew the grains. So anyway, 30 years, hopefully you're going to go through it even before you would get to that. And then you can rotate in more. So looking at this large size, again, six gallon pail, I think it's around 43 to 48 pounds. If you have the storage space, cost is a concern, this is your way to go. And we'll look at this one a little bit more closely because I have on here a Gamma lid. A Gamma lid you can get pretty much anywhere, online, of course. Amazon, you can get, you do have to be, I mean, as with anything, just thinking about cost per lid. So when you get this bucket, 6-gallon bucket shipped in from at least Ancient Grains and Bread Buckers, I do know that it will come with a lid like this. It comes sealed, and you will likely need to use some kind of tool to get it off. It does have a, these anyway from Ancient Grains has a pull tab, so that, which I think we're all familiar with, but it will come with a reusable lid. So the 6-gallon bucket will come with a lid very similar to this that you'll need to get in and out of some way. So it'll take some strength to get this lid off of this bucket every time you want to get in it. So that is why the thought is you replace that lid with this Gamma lid, which has, nice sealing properties. And once you put this on, once you take this type of lid off, hammer this ring, because there's a ring here. You hammer this onto the 6-gallon bucket, it's considered permanent. So this becomes your storage for the grains. And if they come in another bucket, you want to transfer it to this, because of course this is your Gamma lid. So you have easy in and out access. So you can, you can spin this off. I take these containers to the basement, take off this Gamma lid, get the grains, out of here, put this back on, and I know that I'm airtight and sealed away from any harm. So Gamma lid, I highly recommend. So another thought, and what I researched is I didn't want to buy a bucket every time, because why? I didn't want to pay Ancient Grains for the bucket. I didn't want to pay them for the Mylar bag. Have the bucket. I have my Gamma lid on it. So now I want to get my bag. I want to order my grains, in a bag. When I bought the 48-pound bag of hard red wheat, what I did is looked, what were my options to buy my own bucket. So I could buy just the bucket if it came with a lid. I may not need it, but not many places sell the lid and the bucket together. And then you can buy the Gamma lid. So my overall total cost, buying the bucket, buying the Gamma lid, buying the 48-pound bag of wheat was cheaper. I was still benefiting from the, reduced cost for quantity, but then, and then, getting it shipped free because I was buying 48 pounds. And then, in my experience here in Ohio, looking online, lots of places, the lid alone is $10 to $12 per lid. But if you have a Menards, which, Menards probably like anybody else will ship, we have found in, Southwest, no, actually Southeast Ohio, that Menards has the best price. So you can go to Menards. I think it's going to be a 5-gallon bucket, so a little smaller. So for the 48 pounds of red hard wheat, I needed 2 buckets, and I didn't do 2 Gamma lids because I only need one to be my permanent get in and out of bucket. So you be thoughtful of how much you're spending on the gamma lids, because you don't need a gamma lid on every bucket. I can put half the red hard wheat in another 5-gallon bucket, put this type of lid on it because I'm not going to get in and out of it all the time. And then when I am ready, so I've emptied this one with my gamma lid. I need to get into this one. Then you just empty this bucket into this bucket, and now it's, here's your easy access supply. And then when you get another bag in, you fill the bucket that has this lid. So yeah, we had to think about how many buckets do we actually need gamma lids on. But back to Menards, they had the best cost per bucket for a food grade 5-gallon bucket. And then the gamma lid there was around $6 and change. So $6 and change, significantly less than the $10 to $12 elsewhere. Now, opinions about the lids, I did not mind if all my lids were white, because if my lids are white, yeah, I can't, from across the room identify what is in the bucket. And I'm not doing very good. I'm not doing much justice for this. It really is not this. Yep, I'm trying to right to tight, left to loose, and I was trying to tighten it going left. There we go. If you turn it the right way, it will tighten quite nicely and easily for you. But I did not mind if all of my gamma lids were white, and that is all I have found at Menards. So if you are okay with your, putting a label on your bucket and all of your lids being white, then save the money. Why pay $10 to $12 for a gamma lid when you can get it for $6 and change? And you can easily take a marker or in some way label the top if you want to be able to see from the top. And why I say that is, if you watch Sue Becker's videos or other people, I think Sue specifically puts a blue lid on her soft white, a red lid on her red hard, and then a white lid on her white hard. So if you want to do color coding, that's great. And I was really leaning hard to wanting to do the color coding, but I just couldn't justify the extra $4 to $6 per lid. So that's the 6-gallon buckets. Highly encourage 5 or 6. Like I said, if you're buying them yourself, you're probably going to get 5-gallon. That's most that I have found as available, but you can get 5, 6, 7-gallon pails, and then again think about moving them. And a 5-gallon is going to be even easier to move than a 6-gallon. You'll just be able to store a little less. And what I have found in these 48 to 50-pound bags of grains that I've been buying, 2 5-gallon buckets take care of it. And then like I said, I take the label. This label comes on the bag, which whatever size you get, you can take this label off, put it on here, and you have it labeled. So there is your gamma lid, 5, 6, 7-gallon bucket. And as as I said, I'll take this. I preferred this, as a glass container for me. I did my homework. I liked that it had a lid. I'm storing this in my pantry on a lower pull-out shelf. So I have 4 or 5 of these in there. I put, these right on see-through labels, so you may not be able to see it on video, but it's a clear see-through label that I wrote on with a black Sharpie. When I was looking for this, I wanted a large enough quantity that I wasn't running to my basement all the time and getting in here like you do with these. I mean, this is like, it's millet. I don't use as much of it, but if I had these grains in this jar, I'd be going to my basement every day, maybe 2 times a day, depending on what's going on. So I wanted something that had enough volume that I felt like I wasn't filling it all the time. And this looks like it's 6,000, so like 6 liters. They're about 5 to 6 liters. I wanted the handle so I could easily pull it out, because it's a little heavy, nothing like this bucket, but I want to be able to pull it off that bottom shelf with the handle, not trying to grab it here and maybe have it slip and break. It's really heavy glass, so I'll put a link to this in the video notes. But I wanted easy access, and then the size of the entrance to the jar mattered, because I knew I'd probably be using a 1-cup measuring cup often, half a cup. So I want to be able to get my hand in there, the cup in there, so I could really, easy in and out and not be spilling stuff all the time. And these have worked. I really am glad these have worked out really well. I, off the top of my head, can't speak to cost, but I'll put a link to these in the video as well. I did get them through Amazon, so I'll have a link for this. I already have a link for Ancient Grains in my channel. I already have a link for Breadbeckers in my channel. So those are there. Anything that I'm talking about here, I'll add. This, of course, is easy. A mason jar. It is, once you put the lid on, well, airtight. If this is what you have, you use this. If this is what you have the room for in your pantry, use this, and then you can decide, what can you do. These, I've never seen this particular container offered, other than Breadbecker's. Check Breadbecker's website, because they have a co-op where many of the states, at least over here on the Midwest, the east side, I know that they have probably at least one shows up on the map going to Texas. So check their co-op. You may have a co-op drop location really close to you and a coordinator that you can connect with, and you can have all of this heavy stuff shipped to the co-op drop, and then work with the coordinator, pick that up, and you're paying significantly less in shipping. So you do have options to get your grains through breadbeckers.com, their co-op options, assuming you have one near you. We have one here in Ohio. We do have to drive about 45 minutes, and I think the delivery is 3 times per year. So in our case, we shopped in July, and there was some issues with ours this time. We didn't pick up until late August. Yeah, it was a little bit longer than usual because of some unforeseen issues. However, you can order. You have 2-week window to order. You know that you're going to get your supply, and then if you decide if you want to drive to pick up at the co-op or explore other options. For me, I have ordered ancientgrains.com, Breadbeckers, both by picking up and then having a shipment delivered through the co-op. I have Azure Market. I've mentioned in another video, Azure Market has a co-op as well. With them, though, it's great because it's once a month. Now, again, they have a coordinator. You would have to see if you have one near you, or at least near enough that you'd be content to go, drive that distance. And then you can also, I think, be a coordinator depending on how committed you are and the time you want to invest. But Azure Market, I would have to say that out of my experience, the grains, they're clean. I have not found anything in any of these 3 sources I've listed. I've not found anything that I would say a foreign object for sure. I haven't found any rocks, anything that I was concerned would damage my mill. So everything seemed clean. Now with the Azure Market, I don't know as much about their packaging practices. I don't think you can get anything in a bucket, so it's bags or nothing. And I think it's 5-pound bag, 25-pound, 50-pound, if I'm recalling correctly, the options. The only thing I found in one bag as we were transferring it from the 50-pound bag into the buckets, and I have ordered red hard wheat and white hard wheat through Azure Market. There was, some dried corn and a few lentils, but I think I even found a lentil the other day in my something from Breadbecker. So that is, to me, that's just, it's food. So it's not like I'm finding a rock or anything. I haven't found anything, and we've handled a lot of volume of grains from all 3 places. So those are the 3 that I've used. I think that is everything that comes to mind. But if there's anything else you want to know, just ask in the comments and I'll do my best to answer. And we'll move on to why do I think the Nutrimill Classic is the best option as grain mills go. So again, while I was like many people, much of what was being recommended was sold out. The the sources I had, first sources before I learned about Sue Becker and Brett Becker's, I was already being, prompted to look into graining, milling my own grains. But the only source that I had recommending a grain mill to me was recommending the stone mill. I think it was the mock mill, and I was researching that one and the other stone milling head options, and they were sold out. So it's like, okay, I can't find one, so I'm just may as well just learn as much as I can through people's experience, reading about these mills, learning what other people have to say about them, and then go from there. And I was looking at this one after I had learned about Sue, watched her videos, and I'm so glad actually that I was learned about Sue and watched her videos before I purchased, because I was convinced. I mean, a couple of the sources made me think that I had to go with a mock mill or something that was stone grinding. And then I'm pretty sure, I think Sue is onto something, because she says that we're told, because of the history of milling, that stone grinding is superior. And I know there has to be something to that, because when I have had options to buy stone ground cornmeal, cornmeal or corn grits, I thought that that was superior. And why? Why did I think that it was superior? I've learned something in my past or heard something, excuse me, that made me think stone milling is superior. So that's what I have to go with. But in that, few weeks that I had to research, I heard what Sue had to say. She's like, don't just think that stone mills are superior. And that's when she was, educating her, excuse me, her watchers, pardon me, about the micronizing steel meal heads that, they were used originally in the pharmaceutical industry, so you can get a really fine grind. So number one, I think, based on my research and experience, you can get a finer grind with the steel milling heads. They're not going to wear out, not going to, wear down. I wish I had a set here to show you. But I, having said that, I don't want to imply that the stone milling heads wear down, because I've seen other people say that they don't. I don't, I've not used an electric mill with the stone milling heads, and of course not for a long period of time, but other people who have used, 4 years, looked at them and they didn't look like they had, in any way diminished or, worn away. How could it? We can't be grinding our food with stone milling heads and have the mill head break down, because then we're, what's that going to do to our teeth? We would have stone mill parts in our food. So it just logically, that doesn't happen. However, one thing that I have heard that was a concern to me, or read and heard, which was a concern to me, is those stone milling heads, they can absorb the oils from the grains. So again, we know that when we're milling fresh grains, the oil, they're full of oil, the healthy oil with all the nutrients. Well, when you're milling something that with something that is absorbent, it does, again, logically make sense that the more contact they come with the grains, the more that oil they will absorb. And to me, that it makes sense that if it's absorbing oil, then the oils, go rancid because they're exposed to the air, and then that rancidity would have to, maybe not largely, but it would impact your grain that's going through it. And then most recently, I heard this one woman was reaching out through one of I think, a Facebook freshly milled flour community, and she lives in an area where they have a lot of moths, and she was getting moths inside her stone mill because they were drawn to the oils, the things that adhere and stay in the mill. So that to me was just, okay, that's just one more reason why we're protecting, the grains from bugs, rodents, if we have a mill that is absorbing oil, is that attracting bugs? And I don't want bugs in my mill. So not to say that that can't happen here. I mean, anything, we live, where we live, we all have, we have a bug, ants, we have other things that come into our environment. And I'm not going to sit and say that I would never get a bug in this, mill. It is open to air. It has access points. So of course it has the ability to get, something in it. So yep, just cleaning it. We just have to do the best we can do. But that was one reason. Another reason why I didn't learn that before I shopped, but I had already convinced myself that I wanted to go with something that was intact, not open to air. So when I'm grinding my grains and the flour is going into this bottom container, I am reducing the, how much is going into the air. I can't speak for you all, but I have to dust entirely too much already. I don't want to be dusting more because I'm grinding grains, once a day, twice a day, 5 times a week, whatever it is. I wanted to make sure that it was intact. So that was important to me. I wanted a variety of grind ability, and I do have a Wonder Mill, and I used this first because this was the first mill that came in the house. I bought it directly from Nutrimill. I do have a link where you can save $20, so that is in the video. Excuse me. The link is Bread for Life, and it will be in the video notes, but you can save $20 if you order this through Nutrimill. I will say that it is sold out quite frequently. My brother did use their contact me link. They have a place where, it's sold out. Put your email here. We'll let you know when it's in. He did that. They notified him right away when it was in. I do not know if I don't think Bread Becker's does that. I don't know if you go to Mock Mill. Wonder Mill, if you go to their website, it takes you to Amazon and it's sold out. So wherever you find mills sold, I do not know who offers that option to notify you when it's back in stock. Nutrimill does. I bought mine directly from Nutrimill. Very good experience. I highly recommend. If you can find it somewhere else, then great. Pricing is going to be very similar regardless where you get it. However, Nutrimill was a great experience, packaged well, shipped quickly. And I think I got mine around Father's Day. Yes, it was June, and they were doing some type of promotion. If you, depending on what you bought, you got some free items. I didn't even know that, and it was quite the surprise when I got the shipping notice and saw that I was getting some free items from them as well. So depending on when you buy it, that might be the case. You're already going to have a coupon code because I just gave it to you and I'm going to put it in the video. But with this mill, I loved that it has this ring. I think I can get it off here just to show you, but I don't take it off regularly. But it is this ring that pops off, and I had intended to have it off to be able to show you how to put it on. So when I first got it, it came in these different parts. So this is just a bolt that holds the two pieces together. Very easy to pop out with the spring. And then this comes off. So this is your mill. This is your actual mill component. And it will come in, I cannot remember if this came attached to the base or not, but I think it does. And this is stored inside here. So here's your flour. Consider this your flour bin, just like you would if you've been doing if you've been doing store-bought pre-ground flour and you have a flour bin, just consider this your bin. It's going to be empty unless you're grinding flour from here, grinding berries from here into here and then using it. So the thought is you're storing your grains, but you're not storing any flour. Not that I expect to have or would need to, but my understanding is if you need to send this back in for any type of work or repair, which I don't think happens often, I've not known of anyone to need to do that, you take this part. This is the part that you would send back. This is just, of course, part of the housing that will hold this. None of these other components need to go. It would be just this. And this I wanted to show specifically is the bottom exit of the steel milling heads that are sitting in this housing. And this opening connects directly into this opening. So when the grains go in, the flour comes out, flour goes in here. Just I don't have any, dust coming off of this. So to me, that is really important. And like I said, was a big component for me. I did not want to be cleaning up more dust or creating more dust because I was milling and creating fine dust in the air. And that, I mean, if you're milling with this and you have the settings correct, or how you need them, it's unbelievable how fine the grind is with this. So here we put the milling the heads, the milling component housing back on the base for this storage, and it's literally just pop this in half a turn, and now this is secure. When I first got it, I was storing this away and just using this, which it is an option, cute little thing here. And this is always stored in here, so no concerns. It's very compact. And I'm always doing that. I'm always trying to put it in backwards. Excuse me. So this is how I was storing it on my countertop when I got it. And this was, in the cabinet. And I thought, I've got more vertical space under the cabinet. So why am I storing this? I may not need to put 12 cups of grains in here, but let me just put this on here, and I don't have one more thing that I'm storing in the cabinet, when it can just go on here. And then I'm not kind of worried about when I pour the grains in, they're going to spill out, because it was pretty shallow without it. So that is my, ultimately how I've landed. And as you can see, very compact. This is, again, where the flour goes in. And some people struggle with this container, how to open it. Many people I see trying to, grab it here and turn, or grab it here and turn. What I recommend, and what is, came intuitively for me, is use your finger and your thumb. So finger on the side here and thumb on the side here, and then just, it's so easy to twist. I don't see a reason to need to fight with it. And when just use your fingers and your thumb, both of these points, as leverage. So middle finger here, thumb here, and then just, it turns, and this, piece slides out. And once you slide it back, same thing, it's in there, it's secure. So yeah, think about that, try it. And then this comes off. Here's your flour. It has flour in it because I just used it yesterday. This is the overflow cup, where flour will collect in here every time. Every time you use it, flour will collect in here. And this is just another catch point to keep that fine flour from going out in the air. Because, so again, when grains go in, flour is at a high rate of speed going into this container. Well, if it didn't have some way to collect it, it's got to have airflow. So it's going to have to be open to air. Well, under this, collection sponge, or, protection from the fine spray of flour is here, but the hole is there. So this is preventing it from, exiting into the air. And then the collection cup is, as it's, creating this vortex in there, is collecting the overflow. So all of those things are keeping your environment, cleaner. Cleaner. I don't have my apron on. Usually I do. So when you get this new, I did not have this problem. So when I got mine, put it on and off, it's spun easily. But I've heard others say that if you are having difficulty getting it to spin and open for you, then and you saw I tried, quickly, it would not, and then I just used these two leverage points, and it turned for me without any issues. But if you find that you're having some difficulty getting it to turn, you might put some flour around that edge, so that it's not so sticky. And then in here, in your collection container, the seat area here for the collection bucket, there's a yes and a no. If you put this in and you find that it's, you just slide it in there and don't, kind of don't think about it. The bucket is aligned with no, and you don't want that because it's not fully seated, and when it grinds, it's gonna, it will not go in the container fully. It will, but not all of it, and you're gonna have a mess. So just make sure you push it entirely, all the way in, and then you see yes here, it's seated, it's sealed, and it's gonna collect all your flour where you want it to collect and not be going into your air. So what I did, I found a Wondermill because, everybody's crazy about the Wondermill, and I was in Facebook Marketplace. So I found one that was new. Somebody was selling it. It was a great price. I knew that I was trying to get more of my family into milling. So I'm like, I'm going to get this. I will either loan it to them or maybe they'll want it. So I got the Wondermill and I thought, okay, I've had this for a few weeks, a month or 2 months maybe. Let me switch it out. I'll put this, store this for a month or so and I'll use the Wondermill. I personally am not a fan. I don't like the function of the Wondermill as well. And again, I'm talking the Wondermill micronizing steel head mill, just like, this. It's 2 pieces, and you have to connect through that tube, and I just find it's messier. The tube is a connection point where I used a dry paintbrush for cleaning this and that, but I found that was just more challenging. And if I didn't always have the tube connecting into the Wondermill on the side, then that was an open point, and there was always flour there that I seemed to, turn it over and kind of bang on it and clean that hole out, but there was still flour there, and I thought, well, that's an open to air, open point where if I don't have moths, but if I did, that would be a place for them to get in. And it just, that was concerning to me, and I didn't like the 2 pieces. It just didn't feel as functional to me, especially with the motor speed here and the grind, how fast you feed the grain. I have wider flexibility in finer to coarser grains. Now you're not going to grind, grits in this. It's not going to be that wide of an option on either of them, but I find this has a wider option in like a medium to really super fine because I have that control. And I don't know why it's as important to me as it is, but I found using this one, going to that one, and then coming back to this one, I can plug this in, load my grains here. So I'm taking them from this container, filling this, whatever combination I want, up to 12 cups, so volume. But most important to me is I can put the grains in here, then turn it on. It was concerning to me that with the Wondermill, I couldn't do that. I had to put the grains into another container, bring them to the mill, turn the mill on, and then feed the grain. And there was so many warnings in the manual for the Wondermill about what you do if you forget, or what you do if the power goes out. You're halfway through grinding, the power goes out. How do you deal with getting those grains back out, because you can't just turn it back on. It has now filled those grain, the way the milling heads sit in the Wondermill, it has filled them, overwhelmed them with quantity capacity. So to me, it was like, this is so great. I can put the grains in, to, get 2-3 containers out, fill this with what I want, whatever combination, half red, half white, quarter spelt. If I'm making Ezekiel, I can, put all those different grains and beans in here and then turn it on, and I get my flour and I don't have to worry about it. So to me, that's it. Just the compact, sealed containment of this one, the flexibility in the grinding, the control I have in these 2 knobs, motor speed, and then how fast the grains are fed in. I can get super fine flour, and that's what I'm looking for when I'm doing my cookies and cakes, brownies. I like that I can have this lid on while the grains are feeding. So, put the grains in, put the lid on. It's made so that it has the openings here so it can pull in air. But I don't have grains flying out. So that having the lid on while it's grinding, putting the grains in before I turn the mill on, having everything collect here, larger volume here, I can put more grains in, more flour out without having to, and I'm not, for my husband and I'm just not grinding 12 grains, 12 cups of grains into 20 cups of flour on a routine, but, uh, you know, 9 cups of flour in here easily. And it's just, yeah. So the containment, turning it on before, or putting the grains in before I turn it on, all of those are why I think the Nutrimill Classic is the way to go. You can buy it directly from the company. I'm going to give you a code to get some money off. And if it's not in stock, which it was not just a few days ago, they will notify you. Okay, I think I have said everything I can say about this, why I think it is, reigns supreme compared to and I'm pointing because my other one is in the dining room right now, waiting for me to put it stored away. I think I've told you everything that comes to mind about the Nutrimill and why it's great and how to use it and why I think you should have it on your counter and trust them with your business. I think I've touched on everything that comes to mind about storing grains, buying grains. If you think this video will help anyone else, I hope that you'll share it. If you want to subscribe, I plan on doing this at least once a week. I'm going to share everything I know about freshly milled flour, grinding your own grains, my health journey, and yeah, I hope this is a blessing for you. Oh, and before I forget, I do want to share, devotional. I didn't do this on one of the videos, and this is important to me, so I want to share it with you again. Sarah Young, Jesus Calling. I do have a link for this in my channel. I thought this one was really good today. Seems like these are always timely. So September the 26th, come to me and listen. Attune yourself to my voice and receive my richest blessings. Marvel at the wonder of communing with the creator of the universe while sitting in the comfort of your home. Kings who reign on earth tend to make themselves inaccessible. Ordinary people almost never gain an audience with them. Even dignitaries must plow through red tape and protocol in order to speak with royalty. Though I am king of the universe, I am totally accessible to you. I am with you wherever you are. I've mentioned in other videos, it's a conversation. He's always there. He's always listening. I am with you wherever you are. Nothing can separate you from my presence. When I cried out from the cross, it is finished, the curtain of the temple was torn in two from the top to the bottom. This opened the way for you to meet me face to face with no need of protocol or priests. I, the King of Kings, am your constant companion. I love that one today. And the reference verses, Isaiah 50, verse 4, Isaiah 55, verses 2 and 3, John 19, verse 30, and Matthew 27, verse 50 through 51. This one, I enjoyed reading it this morning. And once Jesus died, we don't have to go to anybody else. We have that access, and he's with us wherever we are. So I hope you're having that conversation with your Heavenly Father. So again, in the comments, let me know if I missed anything. I'll answer it. I'll find the answer. And if there's other things that you want to see, let me know, and we'll get a video on it. Take care.